What neighborhoods are winning and losing in Chicago's real estate market thus far? Winning.
Losing.
This is interesting, right? We've talked so much about inventory, and so much of this story is about it, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Overall, if we really look at the neighborhoods that we focus on average, our inventory year over year from now to a year ago, our inventory is down 30%. 30%. 30% less homes. And let's remember, last year, we didn't have enough homes to sell people.
Yeah.
So we're 30% less of not enough to begin with.
Yeah.
Some of our neighborhoods have seen as much as a 50 to 60% drop in inventory. Some of them have been a little bit closer to 5 to 10.
Yeah.
But it's the resounding story. And why that's so important as we talk about the winners and losers is because our data points are down.
Yeah. Each data point has more weight behind it, essentially, because if we're down 50% in the amount of transactions, if we're taking the average purchase price, then that does play into it.
That can play into it. So for example, right, we talk a lot about like a single family home. If we're looking at single family homes in a neighborhood and we have 10 sales that have happened in the last year, and 7 of them are going to be teardowns that are going to be rebuilt, and 3 of them are new construction, well, clearly the teardowns are going to be for a lower number. And because we don't have as many data points to balance that out, some of our results are skewed. We always say statistics you have to take with a grain of salt. And the less data we have, the more we have to understand. But the resounding story, first and foremost, everyone unfortunately is a little bit losing because our inventory is down so much. But we definitely have neighborhoods that are performing very, very well because of that limited inventory. Yeah. And we've got some other discussions too. What have you noticed in terms of who's winning?
So who's winning? Albany Park, Humboldt Park, Westridge.
You called that from the start of the year.
That was my thing. Lincoln Square, Uptown, North Center, all of those neighborhoods have seen really successful years.
Yeah, their pricing is up quite a bit. We see on average, some of them are just 5 to 10%, some of them are definitely higher, but taking with a grain of salt. Yeah. Those are the ones that are seeing the most overall average price growth year over year.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, some of them are kind of like fringe neighborhoods, like Albany Park, I feel like is still this neighborhood that is so misunderstood almost. Like, I feel like
it's having an identity crisis.
I feel like it's just one of those neighborhoods that it got hit really, like it went really well during the pre-recession, and then during the recession it got hit really hard. Yep. And it's still
kind of figuring out who he wants to be when it grows up.
Yeah, it's still recovering. I mean, the good thing about it is you have the east side of Albany Park, which is just off of like Lincoln Square, and then you have the west side, and I feel like those two aspects also change it too.
Well, technically Ravenswood Manor factors in there too, which is very different than the rest of Albany Park. But I think that kind of the important thing to note on that, right? You said Lincoln Square and North Center. Those are neighborhoods that have done very well because of the single family homes, right? As people start saying, as affordability gets tougher and tougher, those are lovely neighborhoods where you're not paying the absolute premium to get into those neighborhoods. You're still paying a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but then the overall price of a single family home started at a little bit better of an entry level for it. So it's not surprising to me that those went up. And I think you're absolutely right. The Albany Parks, the Humboldt Parks, the Uptowns, and the Westridge. I think that those are neighborhoods that have just in general shown a little bit more affordability. Yeah. And as people's budgets are a little bit tightened because of the current environment, they're looking for options, right? Midwestern values say we want to look for value from that perspective. And so it doesn't surprise me that those neighborhoods have done well. Now, on the other side, what are things that haven't been performing quite as well? What have you seen?
It sounds like Edgewater, near North Park, and then near West Side. So essentially the downtown markets, which is River North, near North, Gold Coast, Cabrini Green, Old Town, that. Near West Side is, West Loop. It's Tri-Taylor. I mean, it's the medical district. I mean, it's all right there. So,
well, it's interesting. You take, half of that group is the downtown stuff, right? Very close to downtown. Yeah. And we've said it, unfortunately, that downtown doesn't have as much of a priority to people. Yep. Those higher end markets are definitely, the properties are sitting a little bit more. It's not as, there's not as much momentum in that market, which is absolutely being felt.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at the inventory, it's actually really interesting because I was pulling statistics on it the other day, and the inventory for River North was at the highest during the pandemic, similar to when we were in the recession.
Huh.
And
interesting correlation.
we're finally caught up. So
Yep.
now it's at a standard rate of inventory.
Yeah.
It's like 6 months.
But those neighborhoods are absolutely right. They're starting to come down. The
Yeah.
inventory is balanced, as you're saying, which is great to see. But they're not performing as well. Some of
Totally.
these markets are a little bit more on the flatter side
Yep.
because of that. And it's also interesting to me is that with the exception of North Park, that's going to be a little bit more of a residential neighborhood. But even if you throw Edgewater
Yeah.
in the mix, a lot of Edgewater, you have more high rises, you have more of those types of buildings. And we've seen a little bit of a migration from that
Yeah.
style of living just in general, right?
Yeah,
People still
totally.
love it. People aren't giving up on high rises. But for some people, it was a little bit more outdoor space, an extra bedroom, maybe not wanting to pay
Well,
the assessment costs.
And Edgewater is talking about like the single family homes as well, because you do have like a couple
Yes.
pockets of single family homes, and those are really down this year as well. So
yeah, just in
that's
the fact that
really
you don't have them. So yes, we have winners and losers, so to say. I think the
Yeah.
moral of the story is that our data is what it is, and it doesn't tell the full story.
Yeah, but the good thing also is like overall in Chicago, we saw a 4.2% appreciation over the.
It's a big year for us.
Yeah, so I mean,
Steady,
like,
but big.
It's steady. It's what we expect to see in Chicago. It's a very nice, not double digits, just.
Well, and the nice
easy.
thing is if you think back on it, right, if we track back, right, in terms of our overall appreciation, I think the first year of COVID, we were just under 8%. The second year of COVID, we were actually just under 4%. So we're actually outperforming, right, as we kind of track our numbers in 2023, we're outperforming last year,
Yep.
which is once again, the story is that we don't have enough homes to sell people.
Crazy.